Don't change your behavior to avoid infection. Assume you're infected and change your behavior to avoid transmission. I'm Dr. Fred Rouse, the Real Money Doctor. And it's currently Wednesday, March 25th. I wanted to give you my daily recap of events and how they affect you and your ability to get, protect, and enjoy your money, life, and retirement. So, the news continues. COVID is still a big deal. It's going to be that way for a while. And right now, the United States is the third largest number of coronavirus cases in the world right now, following only behind Italy and China. Actually, China, then Italy, in that order. The World Health Organization said yesterday that the U.S. could easily surpass Italy as the epicenter. Right now, New York is the epicenter for the state, for the country, without a doubt, in the world. Today, right now, as of about 15-20 minutes ago, they had 65,000 cases reported in the United States. Close to half of those were New York State by itself. Right now, there are about 920 deaths, not quite 920, 919, and a third of those are in the state of New York. From yesterday to today, there were another 12,000 cases reported. Again, the cases double almost in every 2 days, every 2 to 3 days. New Jersey is number 2 in cases. It's a quiet story that no one's keeping track of. That's going to be spreading very shortly. There are confirmed cases in all 50 states of the United States. Again, New York State is without a doubt the epicenter because of the numbers that they have. Some form of stay-at-home orders have been issued by at least 17 states. 8 other states have some type of modified order that affect well over 1/3 of the Americans right now. That's for all non-essential workers. And again, I've been telling you, non-essential is an interesting term. You have to check with the individual state to find out what they mean by that. Okay, a good 40 to 80% of the population is likely to be infected at some point in time. About 2% of those are going to require hospitalization. Of the 53% reported cases, 53% of the reported cases, people are age 18 to 49. 18 to 49. 53% of the cases are in that age bracket. This is not just something that affects the old folks, like everybody thought it was. Okay, if you're younger, it can be affected. You can still be affected, and you can still carry this and transmit it. In Italy, okay, I didn't know this until about an hour or two ago. Italy has over 1,800 people, age 30 and under, that are hospitalized. Age 30 and under, 1,800. Okay, so you are not young and invincible. You may be young, but you're definitely not invincible. Okay, if you've got kids, okay, older kids, let them know. Things happen. You can still carry this. So this is a widespread situation. It is not getting better anytime soon because they haven't really defined the extent of the problem just yet. The virus can live up to 9 days at 86 degrees on inanimate surfaces. And if it's colder, okay, maybe 39 degrees, it can live up to 28 days. Incubation period is up to 14 days, and that's why you're currently seeing people that are fleeing New York for whatever reason, couldn't imagine why, okay, and going somewhere else. There's a federal mandate now that if you're coming from New York somewhere else, you have to self-quarantine for 14 days. So at least the federal government got that part serious. Some early signs that you might be infected are a loss of speech, or a loss of smell, and a loss of taste. Those are early signs, and that makes perfect sense because it's a respiratory virus. If you get it, it's going to be in your nose and throat quicker than any place else. It has to go to your nose and throat before it gets into your lungs. So the first thing you're going to happen is, because of that concentration of the virus, you may end up losing some taste and some smell. That'll be a first indication, even before you start coughing and feel sick or have a temperature. So be on the lookout for that, and then you can transmit that information to the doctors as you need to. At least quarantine yourself when that happens, so you've got some expectation of what could possibly happen to you, and the fact that at that point in time you could end up infecting somebody else, because again, chances are you've got the virus at that point in time. Right now, vaccine is still at least 12 months out, possibly 18. They're still investigating different drugs and different drug combinations, but nothing's ready anytime soon. That's just not going to happen. It really isn't. Yesterday I told you about an Arizona man that had died when he and his wife both took chloroquine. Let me just give you the direct quote from the wife, and then you can make out of whatever you want. But this is a direct quote from the surviving wife. He died. By the time they got him to the hospital, he had already died. The wife had vomited most of the stuff back out. They induced vomiting and got her relatively clear. And this is her direct quote. Trump kept saying it was basically pretty much a cure. Don't take anything. Don't believe anything. Don't believe anything that the president says and his people. Call your doctor. That was a quote from the surviving wife. It's just there. Okay. Don't self-medicate with unproven drugs. Physicians go to school for years and years for a reason. Okay. They understand what's going on. If you're a car mechanic, okay, chances are you can't go in and do heart surgery. Don't just anticipate that you can go in and prescribe yourself medication. It's just not a brilliant thing to do. You're really risking your life at that point in time. Don't try and self-medicate with this thing. Wait for the doctors to see what they have to say. Go with what the doctors have to say. Yesterday, Vice President Pence had made a statement that New York was going to receive 4,000 ventilators in the next 2 days. The president reiterated that statement today, saying that the federal government was sending 4,000 ventilators to the state of New York. The governor of New York says he needs at least 30,000. The Defense Production Act, again, was signed, but is not being used, just barely on a couple of different items, for maybe for some masks or something. The reason this is so important to get this in place, it's nice that some of the companies are stepping up. That's a very nice thing. We're going to make these things for you. However, they then go to the open market. And now you have individual states, each trying to compete for that product, raising the price. If the Defense Production Act goes into effect, the government can come in with one contract and say, okay, I want you to change over your manufacturing, build this thing for me. I will give you a contract for this number of things, and I want it delivered in such and such a date. They already know what the price is, they already know what the date is, they'll have these things, and then the federal government can then ship them out to the states, and the states can buy them from the federal government to reimburse the government for the cost of the contract. That makes a whole lot more sense. When something is this widespread, you need some type of centralized authority. That seems to be lacking right now for some particular reason. Hospitals are still asking for donations of PPEs, personal protective equipment, and continue reusing disposable masks, and they're trying to sterilize down at once. That's going to continue for a while. Testing has improved, without a doubt in the world. Right now it looks like they have a 45-minute test, 45-minute turnaround. You do a swab, and they can test this thing, you can test that swab in the individual hospital or the lab within basically 45 minutes. They can do it on site. Up until now, they've been doing your swab and having to send it out, which is one of the reasons that Rand Paul took 3 or 4 days, because he was tested, and it took 3 or 4 days to get the results back. They're compressing that time, so that's as a good thing. But there's still tons and tons of tests they do not have available. It's grossly inadequate at this point in time. That's not going to change anytime soon. The U.S. was basically 3-4 weeks behind in the start of testing. Okay. That's part of the problem. And when the history of all this is revealed 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, that's what's going to be the determining factor why the problem was so quickly grew to the extent that it has. We just could not do the testing. They didn't have the testing available. So much for the testing. The politics. Conditions still need to be met before testing. Again, that makes perfect sense, though, because they only have so many tests. They have to limit them. That's just the way it goes. The president was hopeful yesterday. I haven't heard of it today yet, of having a business for the country open by Easter and having people in churches. I don't think that's going to be possible. Most medical professionals don't see that as being possible. When I came on the air, okay, at that point in time, yesterday they were still working on, at that point, a $1.8 trillion basically a bailout. Okay, it was negotiated all day yesterday and throughout the night in the Senate. Um, it looks like it's pretty much finalized, and it ends up being close to a $2 trillion bailout. It's the largest stimulus package that is in U.S. history. $2 trillion is almost the annual budget for the country. It's not yet passed as of when I got on the air anyway. Chances are it's going to get passed later on today in the Senate. It might take a couple more days in the House. They've got some procedural things. They've already adjourned for the day. And anybody can blow this thing up. And they're just waiting to see what's going to happen. But probably by the end of this week, that bill is going to be passed. Okay. What that does is rather interesting. It cuts into a couple of different things. First, it gives direct payments to individuals, somewhere between $1,200 if you're single, $2,400 if you're married, and an additional $500 per kid is what I think is happening at this point in time. It extends the unemployment benefits by at least 13 weeks, and then enhances the first 4 months of benefits, could be as much as $600 a week. Don't know because, again, nothing's been finalized. That's the way it sounds at this point in time. There's money there for small businesses in form of an emergency loan that will probably be forgiven if the small business keeps its workers. So that's a real good deal. Big companies are also going to be getting bailouts, but with strings attached. And there'll be an oversight committee who gets to see where the money goes. So this is unlike the old TARP situation where the money went out, nobody knew where it was, and it was close to a year before anybody really knew what happened to the money. Now it's going to be almost immediate transparency. Now, the current bill, the way it's structured right now, has prohibitions against the Trump family or the Trump businesses getting any of those payments. I don't particularly love Trump. He doesn't do anything for me one way or the other. It's okay. I don't mind. He's just there. Okay. But to do this, to exclude him and his companies, is not exactly the most fair thing in the world. So hopefully they'll pull that back. I'm not happy with the Trump family going over and getting all his patents, him using his facilities to house guests and making money from those things. That's a whole different situation. It really is. It's not right. There's probably emoluments clause problems with that yet to be seen. People are nervous because he's yet to disclose his tax returns, okay, all this period of time, so you really don't know what his financial interest is in anything that he does. However, to exclude him and his companies also hurts the individual workers in those companies. So I hope that they re-examine that and open that up and remove that prohibition from the Trump family businesses also getting some of this money. They should be treated no differently than any other business when it comes to this bailout. Now, the other nice thing, they have $100 billion for hospitals and healthcare systems. Okay. This is probably not going to be enough, but we'll see what happens. Again, once all this gets approved, again, hopefully sometime this week, there's still a question of how the money gets out and how soon the money gets out. Most likely because they rushed this through. Again, this is a $2 trillion bill. They got done in pretty much a week. Okay. That's record pace for the government, without a doubt in the world. Again, you're talking about a 7-day budget, a 7-day plan that equals the amount of the annual federal budget. So they humped their butts in getting this together. Now, chances are there are things that are screwed up in here, without a doubt in the world. And they're probably going to have another bill afterwards when they find out what they missed, what they need to fix in this bill. But they're getting something out, which is really good. From the sounds of things, if it gets passed this week, they're anticipating, I don't know, they're anticipating that checks could be out as soon as 3 weeks. I don't know, but it certainly sounds good. The market was up 496 points today. That's a good thing. Again, the market reacts to news in anticipation of future earnings. Is the bottom in place right now? I really don't believe so. I don't believe it's going to be in place until there's a whole lot more certainty in the world with the medical situation. And right now, we're not at the beginning of it, but we're in the middle of the beginning. We don't know where it's going to end up just yet because the numbers are just doubling every 2-3 days or something or other. This is not a happy situation. And what it looks like, what happened in Italy is now happening in New York. What's happening in New York will 2-3 weeks from now happen in California and Washington State and possibly Florida and Louisiana. I don't know, but it's definitely growing, okay, and not in a good way. Now, how does all this really affect you? Well, a number of other things were happening today also. The military put a stop on all troop movements for 60 days. That means no rotations in or out. So if you have family or loved ones or kids, okay, that are in the military and they were looking to get discharged or looking to get rotated back to stateside from a foreign deployment, that's not going to happen for 60 days. The other thing that happened is that because of the coronavirus, the military is in no rush to do joint training operations with other countries. They're in no real rush to do joint training operations within the military itself, which really affects the military preparedness. So keep that in mind. On a cute note today, it's Medal of Honor Day. It's the United States Medal of Honor Day. It's celebrated every March 25th. Medal of Honor is the highest award that they can give someone in the military for outstanding service where they risk their life and limb without a doubt in the world, and they were lucky enough to survive in order to get the medal. As of today, there are only 71 living recipients. Most of the time, the award is awarded posthumously, sorry to say. But at least there are 71 living recipients of the Medal of Honor. So if you know any of them, congratulate them. Okay, they did great things. Okay, most people in the military just do great things by just existing in the military. It's an interesting branch, interesting thing. And again, there's 5 services. The Coast Guard is one of those, just so you remember. Being an old coastie, it's often forgotten. But there are 5 services, and the Coast Guard is the 5th one. The only one that happens to have a full-time, peacetime duties and operations. Everybody else is training for war. The Coast Guard actually has peacetime jobs to do. What else is going on? IRS made some changes today, which is nice. Last week I reported that they postponed the payments that you might have due until July 15th. Well, today I just got news that they also postponed the filing date. It used to be April 15th. They've extended that right now to July 15th, which is going to be a big help for a lot of people. It's hard to concentrate right now as to what's going on to try and get all that tax stuff together. Again, 17 states at least have stay-at-home orders. 8 more or have some type of that order, and it affects a third of Americans at this point in time. Some jails have started to release nonviolent criminals. They're doing that cautiously because if there's some type of restraining order, these guys are going to go back, or women are going to go back to their original homes, so they have to be careful of that. But they're trying to get nonviolent people out of the jails so that it reduces the chances of a problem in that closed area. Court systems are still shut down for the most part. Doctors and healthcare workers are still continuing to test positive. There are staffing shortages that are about to occur because you can only run so many shifts. You can only keep it up for so long. And again, these people, frontline healthcare people, they're in there every day. They can't social distance. They can't by the nature of their job. They're there for you, trying to treat you, trying to help you and your family. So we'll see what happens with that. That's not in a good way right now, but they're holding on. Now, Louisiana is about to have more cases. Louisiana spiked in a way that got their attention relatively quickly. And this is all coming out of Mardi Gras that they had a couple weeks ago, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. So again, because you've got a 14-day incubation period, you don't know what's going on. So they had Mardi Gras because at the time, nobody thought it was a big deal. At least it wasn't from the federal side. It was going to, well, there's only one case, there's only 15 cases, it was a hoax, it was all this other stuff. Well, surprise, it's not a hoax. There's definitely more than 15 cases. Okay, and now Louisiana is starting to notice the problems. Right now, over 200 New York City cops tested positive. About 3,200 cops, it's 9% of their force, was out sick on Wednesday. It's 3 times as many as normal. Diane Romanian, 36-year-old Brooklyn principal, died due to complications from the coronavirus. A prominent rabbi and Holocaust survivor from Staten Island, Rami Cohen, has died after contracting the virus. He was 92. I mentioned this yesterday. I saw this on Facebook. I went and I redid it and I posted it again today. Don't change your behavior to avoid infection. Assume you're infected and change your behavior to avoid transmission. I'm going to be saying that every day as this thing goes on. You've got a responsibility to yourself, your family, your neighbors, and society in general to go out of your way not to spread this infection. And you really don't know if you have it or not. So just assume that you have it. If you don't, that's great. But it's too easy to get it. If you stay at home for 14 days and you stay inside the house and you have no other contact with anybody else outside, then chances are you're going to be clear. Up until the point where you go out to the store and someone in the area coughs, or you pick up something from some inanimate object, and then you come back home and all of a sudden you start another 14-day period because you don't know what you picked up. Okay, that's part of a problem. Now, right now, everyone is doing an exceptional job at staying home and trying to avoid contact with other people. It's really important. It's good for you. It's good for society. Okay, this is where Americans come in and they show what they're made of. It's an amazing thing in times of emergency, and this is one of those times. This is a time of a national emergency, and we step up. This is what we do. Most people actually do. Now, again, while you're home, it's important to maintain some type of physical as well as mental safety. They're absolutely critical. Okay? Physical safety, anything in the house that you're used to being around, all of a sudden you're too familiar with it and things happen. Loose wire, crumpled carpet, you take the steps the wrong way, things can happen. Your mental safety is just as critical. Again, you've been isolated for a while. Your daily routine has changed. Because of that, you're just off to begin with. Okay? Your financial security is in question at this point in time, and you've got long-term concerns with that. Well, now's a good time to look at your long-term financial situation. What are your life goals? Not only financially, but for you personally. Now's a good time to pay attention to your diet, your vitamin supplements, and your hydration. Exercise. Something non-impactful that you can do at home safely. Again, I've been mentioning YouTube aerobics. I like this. Yoga, again, you're on a flat surface. Chance of getting injured decrease considerably. Maintain your sanity. Isolation is a major problem for people at this point in time. Now's a good time for a little introspection. Okay, what types of things can you do for yourself? Now's a good time to find out more about your hobbies again. Keep your daily journal, your meditation. Okay, restart hobbies, rediscover your loved ones, just for the hell of it. You marry these people for a reason. Okay? Now's a good time to find out why you did. You're cooped up in a house. Don't let the nerves get to you. Okay, you married your spouse for a reason. You have kids. They were nice at one point in time. You loved them at one point in time. They get a little bit older. Now they're a little bit mouthier. Adjust and find out what's going on in your kid's life. You'd be surprised what happens when you actually have conversations. Okay, you might like things. You might decide you like your kids all over again. Okay, now's a good time to work on a plan B. Things have happened. Things have changed considerably. And a plan B is much, much more important now than ever before. Now, if I can help you with that, that would be great. you can go to drrousenow.com, and the plan B I have set up, I help people retire in 3 to 5 years, starting with as little as $10,000. Now, not everybody can do that. But if you can, you think it's of some concern to you, take a peek at it, and if I can help, I'll be glad to schedule a call with you. Check on your family. Check on your neighbors. Okay, check on the elderly. They felt really isolated before all this happened to begin with. You can really help get them through these periods of time. And it's not going to be over in the next week or two. Just understand that. It's not going to be over in the next week or two. Everybody will get through this without a doubt in the world. What do you do when you're home? Again, there's lots of things. I'm going to have some links. I'm going to post them on my YouTube channel, The Real Money Doctor, when I get this posted, either later on today or tomorrow. I will post this video, and I will post a number of links for things you can do. Right now, before it's 7:30, it's almost 7:30 right now. If you've got young kids in the house, go onto Facebook. Dr. Terry has her bedtime reading, and she starts at 7:30. She does a nice job of that. She really does. She enjoys that, and the kids seem to love it. Other than that, again, I will post a number of interesting links for things you can do while you're home. And I'll post those when I post this video on YouTube tomorrow. The YouTube channel is The Real Money Doctor. So I'm glad you can make it here today. Like and share this video. When you're on YouTube tomorrow, like and share that video there also. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 7 o'clock here. If you've got questions or comments, please email me or private message me, and I'll see what I can do to answer those things in tomorrow's episode. But for now, Dr. Fred Rouse, The Real Money Doctor, I appreciate you being here. Be safe, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you.